Anna and Irakli, you both went through your own personal weight loss journeys. And Irakli, you said you've lost over 100 pounds, right? Exactly. And Anna, you lost some significant weight as well. Over the last several years, there's been several movements such as body positivity and health at every size that seeks to kind of, be more accepting of different body shapes and body types. So for you guys personally, what do those movements mean to you pre-weight loss and after you've lost the weight? So Anna, let's start with you since you went through it more recently.
Right. So for me, I actually thought about this question quite a lot. And I think body positivity, like the movement, is actually very, very helpful because it validates you where you are, right? So for me, pre to post doesn't really matter. It's still something that's significant and helpful. I think when we're on social media, we see one type of thing, or even in the media, we see one type of body, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to consume content where you can see multiple ethnicities, multiple body sizes, and feeling a little bit more normal about what you look like is easier. That being said, if you haven't healed like what's going on inside, body positivity and the movement might not hit you as significantly as other people. So what I mean by that is you're like, okay, great for them, but I'm not in that equation because sometimes we're harder on ourselves and maybe that won't work for you. But overall, it's a great idea, but I still struggle with body dysmorphia and such, and that's not going to hit me if I haven't really healed that perfectionism yet.
Yeah. So what do you mean by body dysmorphia? Do you still feel like you're bigger than you currently are?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I feel bigger. But sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I look good today. And that's kind of like the peaks and valleys of body dysmorphia, is that's what happens on a day-to-day basis. Because when you've gone through like a big transformation, you still feel a certain way, or at least that's my experience with it. So there's sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh no, that's not me. Like I don't see me. And I think I felt when I was bigger, I felt like I was dissociating a lot from being in my body because I wasn't happy with my body. So this is something that I'm like trying to wake up to, and it's still an ongoing, very difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, several years ago, I had a client who went through a significant weight loss. He did it before coming to see me. He literally lost half his body weight. Oh. So he was over 300 pounds, and then he went down to about 170. And he did it within a 1 year period of time, so pretty quickly. Yeah. And he was saying that it happened so fast that when he would look in the mirror, sometimes like it would take him a second to kind of recognize that was him he was looking at, right? It was such a huge shock. Yeah. So yeah, it does take some time to kind of like get your brain to adjust to your new version.
Totally. And then sometimes I think you see like what you were previously, and then other people are like, oh, you look really good. Like, what have you been doing and stuff like that? And you're like, oh, well, thank you, because you kind of regress in that where you're like, oh, well, I'm still that person. I am still that person, just like I look different now. But it's hard for your brain to do you agree? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. What you just said, like you look, you're still the same person, but you feel different. Like one thing that I thought going through the weight loss is, like, I know this might sound weird, but I thought that I would feel like lighter or things like that. But then as you lose weight, it's just like, no, it's just like other things that you do in your daily life that makes it easier. And like I agree with everything you said. The only thing that I want to add is just, yes, body positivity is great, and the movement itself is inclusive and all that. I just think that people who are, let's say, plus size or just struggling with weight, instead of being comfortable in being, oh, okay, body positivity, they should still like aim for like a healthier lifestyle, or just aim for a healthier weight.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is like a slippery slope to body positivity and the movement, because it kind of becomes, I don't want to say an excuse, but maybe it does for some people, where they're like, oh, well, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to change. But if your doctor's telling you like you're at risk for certain diseases and diabetes and such, then yeah, I think you should also pay attention to that. But it's hard for you to look at someone and say, oh, they're healthy, right? Because you don't know what they're actually doing. Like maybe they are working out a lot, maybe they are moving their bodies and taking care of themselves, but they may not look like your typical picture of like what you would expect that to look like. Like we see a lot of like people that are really, really jacked or in shape or such like that, and we think like that's healthy, but they could be preparing for a competition, and that's not an ideal lifestyle all the time. Bodybuilders still have to bulk and then lean and then maintain, so it's not something that you see all the time. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like it's not sustainable for that. So do you have something?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
gonna-
that's like you're looking
yeah,
at it.
No, like the only thing I was gonna add about like the body positivity movement is I think for everyone they should love themselves for who they are, no matter what size you are, what shape you are. Some people are gonna have wider hips than others, and that's genetics. Some people are gonna have broader shoulders than others. That's genetics. No matter what you do, if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, so you can't cancel that out. But at the same time, kind of to feed off what Anna said, if you're going to circumstances where a doctor or health practitioner is saying you need to lose weight, gain weight for specific health reasons, and that's something that they're telling you that for your health overall, but at the same time you can still love yourself. If somebody's saying that you should lose weight to live a longer, healthier life, that's not, I think that's where it kind of gets skewed.
Yeah.
If somebody says you should lose weight for a health reason, they're not saying you should lose weight because you're ugly, because you're fat,
Yeah.
that nobody physically sees you appealing, has nothing to do with that. In that circumstance, I think that's where things get misconstrued in that sense. So
Yeah. I was gonna say body positivity should be accepting yourself wherever you are, but still willing to make the changes to live healthier. So maybe you are like starting a journey of weight loss, but accept yourself and love yourself for making that journey. Accept yourself for where you are at every stage of it, right? So then that, I think, is more encompassing of what I would like body positivity to represent. Not just like, oh, well, like I love myself, and that is important and great, but also if a doctor is telling you this would be healthier for you, because as we carry fat around internal organs and stuff, that is dangerous. So slippery slope for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I think that, just because you want to make a change doesn't mean it's making you better or worse than your previous version, right? It's just different. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like if you wanted to learn a new skill. If you wanted to learn how to play the piano, for instance, are you a better person because you know how to play the piano? Probably not, right? So, if you wanted to change the way you eat or exercise a little bit more because you want to hopefully make yourself live longer and be healthier, sometimes along the way your body changes as well, but that shouldn't mean that any previous version of yourself is any less than whatever you're trying to do. And I think the main idea behind these movements is the fact that, unfortunately, people who are bigger are treated as lesser than, skinnier people for whatever reason, which shouldn't be the case, right? Everybody should be treated equally, no matter what they look like. And for you guys, did you guys notice a huge difference from how you're treated now that you've lost some weight?
So, like, for me, 100%. And it's, again, every, like, little things in life, just the interaction with people. Just if I would walk into a store, before maybe they would not, like, pay attention, but now I see the, hi, how are you, and things like that, and I'm like, why? Like,
where was that?
Why does it have to be, like, so different? And the thing that, like, because I went through, like, multiple stages, in my head, I'm like, everyone's the same. Like, I can't treat someone differently just because of the outside shell. You know what I mean? And just being there, and again, like, people 100% treat you nicely, treat you different, and it sucks. Like, it's good. I'm not complaining, but reality sucks.
It does, because it shows like we want body positivity where people treat everybody equally, but then you go through a transformation and you see people treating you better because you look a different way. I agree with you 100%. It's different. One example I can think of, because it was something so consistent in my life, is I would take the bus a lot. And I would go on the bus every day. No one would like look at me. The bus driver would never say hi. And then I lose 40 pounds and people are like, oh, hi, how are you? And like looking at you and like, okay, what is this and where has that been? And I do agree, same thing with like retail stores and such. Like people don't really look at you or notice you when you're just shopping. So quite different trying to deal with like the attention of people like talking to you. It's another mental hurdle to kind of go through, and it's really interesting that that's the way it switches.
Yeah, that exact example was something my client mentioned as well.
Oh,
Yeah, walk into the store and they're like ready to help you.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to add into what everyone has said is that I feel in that circumstance, like the retail circumstance, I feel, or the bus or public transportation, a lot of stereotypes kind of people use that for instance. So a retail, there's obviously that misconception that a lot of people think someone's, well, in Western society, of course, other societies are different, but I feel if you're a larger person, people automatically assume you're poor or you don't make as much financially. I feel people have this conception if you're extremely fit, you're more well off than somebody who's obese or struggling with their weight loss. So you're gonna feel a certain way. It's the same thing. Again, I haven't been in you guys' circumstances, but for my retail experience, I feel if I'm wearing my gym clothes or some baggy clothes, if I walk in, I have eyes on me in regards to, does this person have money? If I'm wearing something like a nice clothing, if I'm wearing like a blazer or something, then all of a sudden, oh, hey, how are you? What can I help you with? So I think there's always those misconceptions or stereotypes that come into play.
So shifting gears a bit, all of us are personal trainers, so obviously we have a bias that everybody should exercise and eat well and be healthier. And for me, that's kind of the message that I would like to emphasize as well. Exercise shouldn't be about losing weight. It should be more about, slowing down the aging process. Yeah, and just getting stronger and more mobile so that you can just live your life a little bit easier, right? So again, for the two of you, after you lost the weight and started exercising, like how did that impact your quality of life?
For me, actually, I became like really consistent with my workout routines and exercise when I realized that it helped my mental health. It was like a click for me because I struggle with depression and anxiety. And this was something that I could just do for myself. It's a self-care type of routine that I do. And it really helped me a lot, not just with like the physical attributes of it, which are great. I have become way stronger than I've ever been, and I am more mobile, and that feels really good. But it also feels good to feel mentally clear and just getting a little bit of time for me for stress release, and that's kind of where it happened for me. I became consistent not because of the way I wanted to look, but because it made me feel really good.
For me, it was just seeing little results at like one after another. And for example, like during the podcast, like I said, like I would start doing like knee push-ups and things like that, but just going from knee push-ups to actual push-ups and just seeing those little like advancements or like just moving forward and seeing the little results, like what you said for the mental part, 100% I agree, because that always gets me like a mental high. And even now, like whenever I have either a shitty day or I just don't feel like working out and I still push myself, just like the high that I get from it, and after I'm done, like physically and mentally,
It's way better at the end.
the rest of my day is so smooth,
Yeah.
is so easy, and it's just, I realized that the problems I was thinking about, like, everything's gonna be good.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, if your health is good, and this is just my opinion, like the rest can always get like worked on, you know? So
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add on to that, like Vania just mentioned, it's not all about weight loss or the scale. So even for us being personal trainers, the thing that I mentioned to like a lot of my clients is like, don't worry about the number on the scale. I always tell people, unless you're trying to be like a professional boxer or a wrestler where you're in a weight category where you need to be in a weight category because that's you losing money because of it, then forget about whatever the number on the scale is. I think at the end of the day, when you're working out, do you feel better? When you go home, when you put on your clothes, do they feel a little bit looser? Do you have more energy? If you have kids, if you're kicking a soccer ball around with your kids, is that easier? If you have the elevator breaks at work and you have to go down down the stairs, is going up and down the stairs easier for you? Just small little things are like, as you said, stepping stones from like knee push-ups to push-up to what are those other like small little things that happen to the day-to-day life that makes things more tangible for you. So if you have to do the groceries and you have 50 bags, is it easier to bring those from the cart or from the grocery store to your car? Is that easier? Then think about those small things and don't think necessarily about the number on the scale. Like, as I mentioned, that's probably the worst thing because again, that's just one variable. If at the end of the day you feel better, you look in the mirror and you smile at yourself, you're happy of who you're becoming, that's more important than if you weigh 205 and a girl who wants to weigh 120. And I tell my clients that's just an arbitrary number. Who cares? Again, if you're not a professional boxer who has to be at 205 before on fight day, then it doesn't necessarily matter. So
Yeah, and research has shown that you can be healthy no matter what size you are, right? As long as you're active and physically fit. So somebody who's bigger and exercises is going to be healthier than somebody who's thinner but doesn't do any exercise, right? And growing up playing a lot of sports, like I've played against girls of all different sizes, and what shape you are has nothing to do with how fit or how skilled you are at the sport. Like there's been girls I've played against who were bigger than me, who were faster than me, and yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with their size or anything like that. But as long as you stay active, you're going to be physically fit and probably healthy.
Just to add to kind of not being able to tell if someone is healthy, we see a lot of people in the media and they're models that like are not eating enough, and that's what we base like our beauty ideals off of. And we think, oh well, I should be 120 or whatever the weight is so I can look like that. But this person might not even be active. This person just might have predisposed genetics to being skinny, and that might not be a possibility to look like that, and it might not even be healthy to look like that either. So I just find it's funny what we're shown and what is ideal in the Western culture, because it might not even be something that's healthy.
again, I think people have a conception about like their numbers or what their version of healthy is. And Anna mentioned before, when it comes to bodybuilders, a lot of people who are professional bodybuilders, they might, again, Western society may say that may be appealing, that's what healthy is. But if you actually look at their mental health, is they're so stringent where they're under 10% body fat for a male, and they eat a slice of pizza, then they think they're fat. Then they're in the gym for 4 hours doing cardio because they're dealing with their own mental health, things of that nature. Same with, it comes down to female models that might not be eating whatsoever, might have some disease, bulimia, anorexia, something of that nature, because they're trying to fit into this one mold. So I think that's a very important thing for people to understand, that your perception of what somebody ideally is healthy because of what you feel is the physical attributions, they may be dealing with their own demons and where they're extremely unhealthy. And going back to the bodybuilding example, it's called, most are probably on some type of substance of some sort, and it's called substance abuse for a reason. So adding that with their own mental health issues that they may going on, plus substance or drug abuse, that's a whole different ball game that people might not have that realization for, or other individuals that they look up to. If it comes to different actors that they may feel are somebody they look up to, well, if an actor is playing a role where they have to be a Spartan, for instance, then all of a sudden they gain 20 pounds of muscles in 2 months. I think all of us can agree from our own background to do that naturally is highly unrealistic or unlikely, to say the least. So I think that's something that people need to have, again, a realization for. And the last thing I would add to that is, again, I always feel like weight numbers are very arbitrary, because if I weighed 98 pounds based on my frame, I'd be extremely unhealthy. If you weighed I think if all four of us weighed 98 pounds, we'd be extremely unhealthy. But there's some people in certain cultures who, like Asian cultures, for instance, there can be a lady who may be 4 foot nothing and she weighs 80 pounds, but she goes to the doctor, guess what? She's healthy based on her bone structure, her frame, and everything else. Just like there could be somebody who's 250, close to 300 pounds. They may be extremely healthy because they so happen to be 7'2", and they're from like a South Sudanese culture where most of their are Icelandic or Dutch, where they come out the womb being 5'11". So it's just certain things like that that people need to have a realization of. So.
And when it comes to body image issues, like it happens to everybody, no matter what you look like, right? And I think, until you get to a point where you accept yourself for who you are, there's always something that you can change to make yourself, or make you believe that you'll look a little bit better, especially with the popularity of things like plastic surgery and all these lotions and potions that you can take.
Just social media too.
Yeah, exactly. It gets to a certain point where you have to realize, okay, when do I stop chasing this like unrealistic standard, or it can be never ending, right? And you don't have to be overweight to deal with that kind of thing. It's kind of everywhere. And yeah, for me personally, it's like, I'm Asian. I have the body of like a prepubescent teenage boy, and it's like, you like that, Irakli? Yeah.
I think you broke him.
That was good.
Yeah, and it's like, as a teenager, you get insecure about, not having a bigger chest or whatever, right? And it's like when the whole, real women have curves kind of thing came out, it's like, it's kind of impossible for me.
Yeah.
So am I less than a woman because, my hips are the same size as my shoulders? Or So yeah, there's always something that you can chase. But yeah, until you get to a point where you just accept yourself for who you are, and realize that, you can't just keep chasing some mythical version of yourself that probably doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I think all we can do is just like move forward in a healthy way. And I think like moving your body is such a privilege as well. And if you do something that sparks joy in your life, then you're probably doing more than most. So, and then I think to go off what Vania was saying about like, you're always chasing like a better version, or I could do this better, or I could do this. Like I'm not. It comes down to a thing of like, you don't feel good enough then in your own skin. And I think that's easier said than done, to like, okay, I'm just gonna accept myself, right? I think there's like a lot of healing that has to go on underneath. And like I've been through a transformation, but I still sometimes feel the same. And that's something that I have to work on and heal, because I thought, maybe if I drop the 40 pounds, I might feel better about myself. But it's not that easy, because you're always looking for the next thing. I did that. Now that's arbitrary because that's in the past. And then you push yourself a little bit too hard, So I'm sure some people can relate to that. And there's a lot of healing that has to happen, like inside and out, not just because you could drop 40 pounds, but you could still feel like, I have to do more. But you should be happy about, what you've done. Yeah, but easier said than done for sure.
It's kind of like when you buy something fancy or whatever to treat yourself, it doesn't take long before whatever that thing is kind of gets old, right? And boring. And then you're like, okay, what's the next thing that I can get to kind of like make me happy? Which is kind of at the core of what everybody's sort of chasing, right? When they go through these things.
Some sort of acceptance or happiness.
What you said about the healing, I think that's the biggest part, what we should like retain from it. Because for me, it has been like 7 years. So I've been extremely overweight. I've been extremely skinny. I've been anything in between. I've been lean. I've been like gained back weight, lost it again. Like, so I feel like I am pretty comfortable in my skin just because I've took it far, like weight loss wise. I've took it far, like weightlifting wise. So I do have an idea of like where, like, not my genetics are capable of, but just where I'm, like, I've seen it. That's what I'm just trying to say. Like, I've seen like all stages of my body. So I'm pretty confident in my own skin. I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin. But again, because of the self-healing thing, I feel like especially a lot of new beginner lifters that are starting to maybe either want to lose weight or put on muscle or just overall be fit. And this is just for me, the social media part of it. It's so easy to click a button and let's say find a program or just find something that someone is selling, but you do not know how long that person has worked for what they achieved. And you do not know if that's the program they actually used to achieve that. And I feel like when people are starting out, there's a big misconception of like, buy this and you'll achieve that in that amount of time, which is like unrealistic. So I think the stages of your body, it's gonna take years and just like, depends how far you wanna take it, but I think it's the self-healing within that should matter more than anything.
Not only like self healing, but emotion plays a big role in not only just, I would say, just being healthy in general. I think a lot of people have this, again, this conception that if I become physically fit, everything else is gonna fall in line, and I feel that's the worst way to think about it. Is like, if you're mentally not there, it doesn't really matter what you're doing in the gym, in my opinion. You could be, because at the end of the day, if you could have like the perfect workout plan for you based on what you want to achieve, but if you're mentally still not satisfied with who you are, or you're doing a certain lift and you're just walking by a mirror and you don't even want to look at the mirror because you're not happy with yourself, you're not doing yourself any favors in that regard. So I think the biggest thing is focus on your mental health and focus on your emotions. So that if that is even seeking professional help for that, so if that's going to see a therapist, a counselor, or anything of that nature, I think that's what majority of people need to do to at least have something for them to improve on that side of things.
Is seeing a therapist or a psychologist something that you guys have any experience with?
Yeah, I have experience with that. That's actually what helped me want to make a change. That's like the beginning of my journey, is that I started going to therapy. And I just wanted to say, like, hearing that from like pretty much an alpha male is really, really important to hear that. Like, it's important because Dan's in a good position where he talks to people and he teaches people, and he's a male. Like, a lot of men do not seek therapy. So hearing it from someone like that makes me very happy, because I think a lot of men and just anyone in general can benefit from therapy. But females are more likely to go seek help. So that's really important what you just said. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Anna, do you mind sharing more about your experience with therapy?
Yeah, I'm an open book. So I was seeing a therapist for CBT, which is like a type of behavioral therapy. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's basically, it doesn't work for everybody, and I'm looking to try new types of therapy right now in my life, because I feel like it's given me something, it served me in the past, and now I'm looking to kind of grow more. So my experience with therapy was great. I've tried therapy in the past where it wasn't my decision to go. So my parents were like, oh, you should go see a counselor, or you should talk to someone, but I wasn't ready to do it. So as soon as you feel like you're ready and you take your own steps, that's where it's going to work. And I think we can kind of agree even with the gym as well. Like I've had a client that wanted to sign up with her sister, and her sister wasn't really ready for it, but she was. But you can't put someone in like a situation that they're not ready for. It's just not going to work, right? So I've had lots of experience like trying people out and not really wanting it or not really committing to the process of that. But yeah, therapy got me started on kind of just looking at my life and being like, hey, I could give myself a little bit more compassion and start to change not just weight loss, but also just feeling better about myself. It's an ongoing thing. You're not going to go like even for a year and feel like you'll learn things, but there's always healing to do, right? There's always things that you find out. You're like, oh, that's why I do that. You know? It offers some knowledge though, so you can change your habits. So I found that CBT was good. You'd basically analyze a thought, and then you would kind of see how that thought was affecting you physically. So just for example, like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym right now, I feel really stressed. And then you would write down, well, my hands are clammy, and you would actually go into your body and feel what your thoughts are doing to you. And then what you would do is you would debate that thought, and all these beliefs would come up with, so let's say I don't want to go to the gym right now because I don't feel good about myself. And then you would try to debate it, and then that in turns would change the thought. And then afterwards, it's actually very helpful. You feel a little bit lighter, and you examine how, okay, I feel effective, like more effective beliefs. So if I just get through the door, like that's 100% better than me not going. And then it starts to kind of shape your life. But you do have to be very diligent with doing it, or else you get kind of complicit about it and the thoughts just keep going. But you do get to analyze, like, because the same thoughts will come up. And you're like, okay, well, where is this rooted in? And then that's even more work to talk about. But yeah, that's basically my experience so far.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Of course, yeah. I'd say anyone can benefit for therapy. Like, you don't have to go through like a horrible thing to happen in your life to go. Like, we all have things that we think and all like actions that we do, and they do come from somewhere. So I would say definitely anyone. Yeah. If you have a brain and pulse, go to therapy.
Yeah, I think the phrase trauma gets overused a lot these days. So I think that, a lot of people believe they have to have something disastrous happen in their life before they seek therapy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, therapy is great for any sorts of things. If you're struggling with whatever, therapy can probably help.
Even if like you need someone unbiased to talk to, like that's really important. Sometimes we get into fights with like significant others or like family and stuff, and if you need someone to help you analyze that and react to that better, then therapy is for you. Like, it doesn't have to be a traumatic event or anything like that. Like, and yeah, more power to you if you take the steps, because it's very vulnerable and it's very hard, but it does help a lot.
When you were talking about your weight loss and you mentioned thinking that you would feel lighter, but you didn't. It kind of reminds me, again, to the client that I was talking about. One day, he actually asked me if he could borrow our weight vest so that he could wear it around for a few days. Yeah, to feel what it felt like to live like a heavier person again. And to him, he was like, it was amazing how much harder it was just walking around living his life with 40 extra pounds on his body. So yeah, if you wanna try feeling heavier again, then there's an option for you. Yeah, we do at Wellington. Yeah. A little earlier on, I think Anna, it was you who mentioned that body positivity, health at every size, it can go a little bit too far. I don't know if you've come across this, Anna, but I've seen people say things like, oh, even trying to lose weight is fat shaming. Yeah. Do you have thoughts on that?
I think it's not fair to like judge anyone. So like if that's that person's decision to, make a change in their lives, then it's no one else's business, frankly. And then I see people like kind of having the same type of attitude towards celebrities that have made a transformation and have had weight loss, like Mindy, Adele is one, and then Mindy Kaling is another one. She just lost a significant amount of weight, and then there's a lot of people being like, well, who do I look up to now? Which is like, I think it has a lot of different views, and but I think body shaming those people, like that's body shaming again. Like you're just doing what people do to you. Yeah, so it's hurt people, right? And I think that's not fair. Like if someone wants to make a lifestyle change for them, then that's totally up to them, like 100%. Like your decision on how you look is up to you, for sure. And I definitely don't agree with that. That's not fair. That's just not fair.
I agree with what you said. I think everyone has the right to feel comfortable in their own skin, whether if they're a big person, a small person, whatever. I just think that when weight is getting in the way of you living every day, like your life, and it might even impact like the longevity of your health, then I think it's time for you to do something. But if you are fairly active and you're comfortable being, let's say, plus size or overweight, but you're still active and you consider yourself fit, I can't really say anything. I just think that, let's say you're walking up the stairs, you're winded, bending over is hard, like just things that your body is meant to do, and the weight is getting in the way, that's when I think you should change something in your life.
I think the big thing in that regard, why I used to have social media, I don't have it anymore, is I think there can be like a toxic environment. And I think even if you want to have social media, I'm not telling people to do what I do and not have it anymore. If you want it, go ahead and have it, but kind of like detox from it if you need to. So don't spend time on it. And everyone knows how, I'm assuming, knows how an algorithm works. So if you are constantly seeing things that you feel are putting yourself in a bad mind frame, then that's probably because you're clicking or liking those things that you're telling yourself that you don't like, but the algorithm is telling you otherwise. So it's either, because, for instance, if you want to see puppies and kittens all day on your social media feed, you can full well be watching kittens and puppies instead of watching people who are extremely fit or extremely obese or what have you. So I think, again, in regards to social media, you're in control of that. So even if it's just for a day, you're just off of your social media accounts, that's going to help with your mental health. But again, if you feel that you're constantly looking at it and you're feeling bad about yourself because you don't look like this person, or as you might say, somebody that you looked up to who was overweight have done like a weight loss transformation, then maybe that's telling you that for your mental health purposes, maybe not look up to celebrities, maybe find somebody in your own personal life that you can kind of look up to or have a conversation with. And I think that's something that I've mentioned to my clients in the past is, if you're trying to look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, well, good luck with that. And realistically speaking, that's probably not going to happen. So why don't you look at somebody in your own life that you can actually have a conversation with and can help motivate you? Maybe a sibling, maybe your spouse, maybe a coworker, something else along those lines. Somebody who's actually working along those lines or trying to figure out that path you want to go on. It can be somebody at the gym, that if you have Freeform, another client, if you have a client that's been here longer than you've noticed their weight loss, or they spoke to you about their weight loss transformation. Maybe if you guys are working out at the same time or before and after, just pull in that person aside and say, how did you get to where you are? Just finding different connections like that.
I think that's a more sustainable way of kind of keeping your motivation up as well, because we can't really rely on celebrities, or like they might be being paid to do certain things, right? So it might be not as authentic as it should be. And then I wanted to add to Dan, like that's really important to look at people in your life, like to, even my clients inspire me. Like they're here twice a week, 3 times a week, all the time. Those consistent clients inspire me to do my consistency as well. Like I think there's like a back and forth where they inspire me and I hope that I'm helping them at the same time, right? But like they don't have any idea that, oh, I see you here all the time, that means that I can do it too. So that's helpful. And then maybe giving credit to yourself too, because like you are consistent, you are here. Try to really celebrate your wins, like little or big as well. So rely on you to make that motivation, because when there's no one else there, there's you. Like you pulled yourself out of that, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we're our biggest like, and advocates. Yeah. So yeah.
If you don't like what you see in the mirror, then like it's gonna be hard moving forward.
Exactly.
You know? So.
Yeah.
I think even after you've experienced a transformation, it's still a choice that you have to make on a daily basis, right? To maintain those habits that you've developed to keep going on this new path. Exactly. Because, it's no secret that, for everybody who loses weight, a lot of them gain it back within a few years' time, right? And I think that they don't realize how difficult the maintenance aspect is. So for you guys, what do you think is so difficult about maintaining once you've achieved a certain goal or gotten to a certain point of where you were sort of happy with where you're at?
For me, I think the hardest part is just food. Just because I love food. Like I look at food and I gain weight. Like I love food. But also the thing that really helped me is just seeing what your body can do. Like starting from a point, like I said, knee push-ups and all that. The biggest thing that honestly I think helped me stay even more consistent is achieving my first chin-up or first pull-up. Like just being able to do something that you never thought would be achievable and you're actually doing it, that like, I don't know, just like catapulted me in like seeing how far I can push my body. And I think that was more interesting to me than like, okay, I achieved my goal weight, I can eat again and not keep working out. So I think just knowing that I can push myself and see how far I can take my body and just like what kind of skills I can like teach myself or like learn.
Yeah, I think micro goals really do help. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna work on doing a pull-up, or I'm gonna work on doing like a push-up with like a jump or a tap, or like, and especially from a personal training standpoint, like we're always trying to program, right? So we're always looking for, okay, well, how can I make that a little bit more difficult? How can I make that a little bit more progressive? And why not apply it to yourself as well, right? For me, I have a big growth mindset. I think it comes from always wanting to improve. So I'm always looking for, okay, what else can I do to add to my quality of life? Because I've noticed that it has significantly gotten way better since my transformation. And I think just proving that to myself, I know that I could go even further, and that might just mean, I don't know, doing well at work, or it doesn't have to be applied just to how you look. It can be other factors. So I think just not getting complicit with yourself, like you don't hit a goal and then that's it. Like, like you want to find more to do, and what else can you do now that you hit that goal? Like it should be an exciting process with yourself, trying to figure out what you want. I think that's really nice and pretty beautiful to kind of figure out who you are more and more as you are transforming. Yeah, so it's like an ongoing process.
But do you think you should keep trying to strive and look to do more, or
there's a balance of both that like is very hard to find. I think like I've just always been ambitious, but no, you're totally right. There should be also like, you should celebrate also where you're from and where you came, and have that in mind as well. So there's a balance of wanting to continue, but also being proud of what you've accomplished.
Yeah, because for me, what I see working with clients is that for most people, the biggest downfall is just getting bored. And really, once you achieve something, to maintain it, it's just repeating the same thing over and over again for the rest of your life. And that's really hard.
That's hard. Yeah.
Because it's monotonous and it's boring, but that's what you have to do.
Even when I tell like my clients this might be a specific goal in mind and you hit that goal, I kind of put it in like the other like real life circumstances where they have an understanding for it. like for instance, I'll put it in circumstances like if they buy a new house, you save up all this money to buy the new house. Now you have the house. Are you gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna pay the mortgage now? Then it goes into foreclosure. Then you're back in the position that you started with. So just yeah. So I just put them examples. Let's say they want to lose like 10 pounds by a certain date. Like that's a tangible goal. But after that, you lose that 10 pounds. Well, now we need to maintain that, and giving them an understanding of how we can maintain that. And as Vanya said, like some things may get monotonous or like boring, but I think from like a personal trainer standpoint, that's where we just throw in a workout they've never done before. We're still consistent with the workout plan, but you might just throw in like a HIIT workout, for instance, just out of nowhere. Then there's sometimes like, where the hell did that come from? Then they get excited again back to training. So I think that's like for our obligation is if they find that they are getting bored, well, how can we make them excited again, or where can we find them? They've reached a set goal. Now I think that's what we have like the conversation or discussion to say what else do you want to achieve, or trying to find out what else can they be satisfied for. So for instance, if they lost like the 10 pounds, for instance, they're happy. Well, what else in their life can we bring in physical attribution? So let's say they lost the 10 pounds and you overhear them having like a conversation that they want to go hiking with someone in next week or a month down the line. Well, we'll say, okay, our workout plan right now, we're switching it up. It's so on that hike, you're not going to be winded. It's going to be easier. So you already lost the weight. Now it's just maintaining those, again, small little stepping stones, like you said. So it's a hike next week. It's going skiing with the family 2 weeks from now, and just saying we're working on towards our maintenance. So make all those small little trips, adventures that you do a whole lot easier.
One thing also that I forgot to mention is, so without counting the consistency, one thing that helped me stay on track is, in my head, when I had started losing weight, the image that I thought the result would be was completely different from what the actual result was. So in my head, I was like, I'm gonna turn this fat into muscle. But that's not how it works, right? Okay. So at the end of like the 2 years, I lost all the weight, but I look nothing what I thought I would look like. I just look skinny. So then that helped me, okay, I can, like, let's say eat more calories, and I just switch my training from losing weight to actually maybe building muscle or becoming fit. Because yes, it does get boring and all that, but it's just when you achieve that goal, it's like what you said, on to the next. You know, you don't just like stop and be like, okay, I'm happy, I can go eat burgers and fries and all that. It's like, how you gonna keep it off, and how are you gonna push yourself more than that, if you want to push yourself more than that. If you're good and you want to maintain, find your maintenance calories in.
And that's the part that people struggle with, right?
Yeah.
And then it's figuring out, okay, you know, how do I add the stuff that I love to eat, but in a way that is manageable and fits within your overall lifestyle, that doesn't lead you to gaining all that weight back, right? Because, you know, you don't necessarily have to cut out, you know, the pizzas and the burgers and the cakes out forever. It's all about moderation and balance, and figuring out what that balance is. And it's kind of like being an adult and having to do chores, right? Like, my husband's gonna kill me for telling the story, but I remember, you know, he did the dishes one day, and then the next day I was like, okay, are you gonna help with doing the dishes again? And he was like, oh, I just washed them yesterday. Where did all these dishes come from? I'm like, well, do we not eat every day? Doing the dishes isn't like a weekly or a monthly chore. No. It's something that you have to do every day. Exactly. So just like how you have to brush your teeth, do the dishes on a daily basis, you know, we have to make sure we keep walking as much as we can, eat our vegetables, you know, eat our good proteins, and every single day make sure all that. Yeah.
Well, how do you feel after the dishes are done? You feel good? feel accomplished, you have a clean place. Maybe focusing on the after will help people get through, the chore in that sense. So we can apply this to working out as well. I feel way better whenever clients come in, they're like, I'm so tired today. I'm like, well, let's see how your energy is at the end of the workout. And at the end, mostly 9 times out of 10, people are feeling a lot more accomplished and a lot better to go on with their days. So it's the same thing. It's like you have to try to reframe it. I'm doing this for my body, and it's a privilege to move my body. I'm doing the dishes because cleaning brings me a sense of peace afterwards. It's the same thing. We have to like kind of shift the perspective. And boring is great, by the way.
Yeah.
Boring is good. Boring is like routine. It's the same. It gets you like going. Boring is great. I'll take boring over like switching it up anytime. Like, yeah.
I had a random question for you. What was the mentality you went into your like fitness journey? Because for example, for me, it was never because I don't know if it was your first time trying to lose weight, but for me it was maybe my fourth or something like that. But it was the first time that I went with the mentality of a year later or like 2 years later. Because ever since I tried to like lose weight, it was always like, what am I gonna look like a month from now? What am I gonna look like 3 months from now? But ever since I stopped thinking short term and I just focused long term, it was like
That was helpful.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know like what was your like
That's a good
like
question.
not mental state, but just like mental plan of like your journey. So like you said 40 pounds.
Yeah.
What was like the time frame in mind? Or like what was just like the
I actually didn't really have a plan. I actually didn't believe in myself at the time. Yeah, I didn't believe that I would be able to do it, but I kept going through the motions of doing it. And then eventually I lost, 5 pounds, and I was like, oh, I feel a bit more hopeful. And then I think it helped me not put a time on it because it helped me grow like not too quickly or too slowly. It just happened like in a good time, I feel. I didn't know everything yet, but it did help me just going through the motions because I wasn't in a great headspace either. I didn't really think I had the capability of doing so. So when I did do it, it gives you a little bit more fuel to keep going forward, right? So that was kind of the interesting thing is that like I didn't really think it was going to happen for me. And I have to check myself every once in a while too for it. Yeah.
So what made you even start if you didn't believe that you could do it?
I knew I wasn't happy with where I was at. And then, like every time I go to shopping, I like hated it. and I felt sluggish and I felt like depressed and I have mental health issues. So this didn't help me at all. So it started with, I'm going to try to eat better. And yeah, I guess I don't really know why I started, but I'm glad that I did. But I know that deep down, like I deserve a bit better. Like I deserve to treat myself a bit better than what's going on here. I think mentally I wanted to feel better as well, and that just helped. So like I knew I wanted better, didn't really think it was possible, and then I keep proving myself wrong. So that's what I'll continue to kind of do. Yeah.
To wrap up, what would your best advice be for somebody who might be listening, who may be struggling with their weight and doesn't know whether or not they want to embark on this journey?
You can do it. That's the first thing I want to say. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. We're all the same. Move more, eat less, don't starve yourself, think long term, and enjoy life. Don't obviously watch what you eat, yes, but don't cut everything out. Have fun sometimes, find a balance, but you can do it. The one thing the reason why I got into this industry, it's literally all my clients, every time I do a consultation with them, I tell them I can relate. I've been where most of these people are. I know how hard it is to start. You don't know if you're eating properly. You don't know how much you should be eating. You don't know if you're lifting properly, if your form is good, if the exercise you're doing is correct. So like just the relatability aspect of it, I think, is a big part, and just showing that like you can do it. Just move a bit, eat less. You can do it. You'll achieve your goal. Keep it simple. Come see us at Byword.
Shameless plug. A shameless plug. I think if you are thinking about it, then it might be time. Just bet on yourself, and even if you don't believe in yourself, maybe just get through the first session, and then try for a second, and then try for a third. Just take it mini steps, like baby steps at a time, and I actually see it as like a snowball effect, right? Because you start coming to the gym, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can drink some more water too, and maybe I could eat like a nutritious meal tonight. And it doesn't have to be too complicated either. Just, we pretty much know what we should be eating. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, but you know that maybe chicken with like green beans and rice is a little bit better than like a Big Mac every night. Small steps. If you're thinking about it, try. Just bet on yourself. Do it. Just like you said, I relate a lot with my clients, and I get really excited when people are looking for a transformation. I like to tell them, I've done it too. Like you can do it as well. Like, we're human. Like yeah, you're not above science. It's just calories in versus calories out, and taking care of yourself. And hopefully that adds to your quality of your life.
I have never been in either one of your guys' perspective, but again, I've trained people coming from where you guys came from. So my biggest piece of advice of people who are looking to come in is just find your motivation. There's something out there that's going to motivate you, and just kind of use that to fuel you. So again, as we mentioned throughout this discussion, if it's just simply feeling good about yourself or feeling better, it can be that simple motivation. If it, again, is if you so happen to have children, just to be able to see your children's wedding or their graduation and not have to be strolling in a wheelchair due to the fact that you're too big to walk around or anything of that nature, or being able to play with your grandkids if you so happen to have grandkids or something along those lines, and not struggling. Or it might be simply, as I mentioned one of my clients before, just simply waking up in the morning and not struggling getting out of bed. And that's why I say for a lot of my older clients too, that they could care less about a six-pack. They just want to wake up, get out of bed, and don't need their wife to nudge them to get up. Something as simple as that. So again, just finding that motivation factor, I think that's the greatest way to start.
For me, if there's anybody out there who's currently struggling with the weight, what I want to say is, you're not worthless. I think we can all be a little bit kinder to everybody. And if you're not ready to be at a point where you're able to change how you eat, I think just trying to get moving as much as possible, and get your body moving, learn what it can feel like to be stronger, just because it makes such a huge difference. Just being able to move around the world easier, and being able to just do things without being in pain or being tired all the time. And I think that can be a good step to kind of spurring any more action on your part. So just be happy, be healthy, and move.